Hello, it's Neil Green. I'm back again after the big marker issues that we had today. I appreciate you trying to stick it out with me and get through that. But as you know, that technology sometimes does not is not our friend whenever it is when it works. As you can see, technology is wonderful when it works, and when it doesn't, it can be a real pain. And from experience, hopefully we learned something today. I always try and take things and show you the learning experience from it. But I've been in situations where I've used technology and created what I thought were these awesome lessons when I was going to be observed by the principal or other people at the school where I worked. And there was some technology piece that just didn't work, and it threw a monkey wrench in everything. My Why I'm saying this is it's always good to have a plan B. And plan B for us is actually it may work out better in the long run because what I did was take your questions that you emailed me. And if you didn't email me questions yet, that's fine. I don't blame you. It's Saturday. You want to have your weekend, but feel free to keep them coming. What I did was take your questions, copy and paste them here, and I'm going to try and address them one by one the best I can. And if I can't right now, then we'll, definitely come back to it and make sure you get the answers that you need. Um, okay, so it's always good to have that plan B. But so here we go. We're going to start it out. Um, a candidate commented in one of the emails sent to me. It says, "I've come too far for too long to quit or fail now." That's so true. You got to realize that we're here for you. We want you to be successful. I am deeply invested in you guys. It's what I do for a living, and I really want you to be successful because your success is my success. So, again, I've discussed briefly about how this course is a little bit different than your other courses because we're more partners or colleagues than at any other time. I want you to lean on me heavily. I want you to lean on the 460 students, lean on Miss McDevitt heavily, and you're probably the most important person in this process is your cooperating teacher. Lean on him or her heavily. And you also have support from your clinical practice supervisor. All right, let's get right into the questions. The first one is a question, and I think you can see my little cursor here. During the video today, you talked about making sure we had proof in writing using old textbooks. I sell most of mine back. I have last term's books and the book for this class, and that's it. What would I need to do then? And then another question that was related asked, I want to put forth my best work, but if I do not include proper citations, will that be a major deduction when graded? Well, okay, to respond to the first thing about textbooks and evidence, it doesn't matter. I suggested keeping the textbooks, your old textbooks, because you're familiar with them. You spend time reading them, but the evidence does not necessarily have to come from them. You can go online through the Kendall Library and find professional journal articles and conduct research, maybe a keyword search, again, back to this prior knowledge thing as an example. If you type in prior knowledge and find out what the experts have discussed about prior knowledge and incorporating it in your lesson plan specifically, then you can use that as evidence. So you will have to dig a little bit more, but the evidence doesn't necessarily have to come from your old textbooks. It was just easier that way. Google Scholar is another site that I've used and that you can use to find some, again, scholarly journals, articles about the topic that you're looking to investigate. And as far as the second question about using proper citations and will that be a major deduction, um, as as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, grammar is not necessarily counted against you, but it will be if it's to the point where it's a distraction, meaning there are so many mistakes that the evaluator can't follow what you're trying to say. And I think the same would follow for citations. You're probably not going to be deducted points for having perfect APA citations, but you just want to make sure that you give enough evidence or provide enough details that the reader can follow the trail back to where you found your citation, and so they can have a link to that information. So to answer that question clearer, No, you're not going to be graded on having perfect citations, but you just want to do your best to try and get it as correct as possible. Okay, moving on. Video recording of students who I do not have permission slip or parental approval. You're not allowed, first of all, before I even go on, you're not allowed to videotape those students, so don't do that. If you do a whole group instruction with the student seated at his or her desk, um, yeah, you're going to have to move the students, and you cannot focus on the students who you don't have permission slips for. Only students who you have those permission slips for are able to be recorded. Okay, students will be seated in their assigned seats. How or what is the best practice to not include that student in my video? I mean, that's up to you and your cooperating teacher, but my suggestion would be what I would do is just move them to another part of the room. I know that may sound harsh, but you cannot videotape them for legal purposes if they don't send the permission slips in. Okay, next question. Lesson plans. My host school strictly follows the kindergarten core curriculum. Therefore, my lessons will have to come from my cooperating teacher's lesson manuals. Is this okay? Yes, you have to follow. Your cooperating teacher is your boss. You have to follow what he or she says and does, and that is kind of, definitely something you have to do throughout this experience. You can, however, manipulate or revise and edit those lesson plans to meet some of your needs if you have to. And I mean, I guess it depends on the lessons. And whoever wrote that question, you'll have to send that to me, or send me an example of what you mean. As long as you incorporate what they're looking for in the edTPA, and if you, we mentioned the word commentary today, you have the opportunity throughout this whole process to write commentaries, and that would be the section where you address this. For example, the school, you would say, write something like, the school where I work, where I'm completing my my student teaching experience, follows the kindergarten core curriculum. Therefore, I had to follow my cooperative teacher's lesson manual. In this case, it included strategies A, B, and C. And then you could even go as far to say, if I could incorporate my choice of strategies, I would include C, D, and E. Okay, so hopefully that's not confusing. But in what I'm trying to say in short is that the commentaries give you the opportunity to state what you might include, or give you or provide rationale for why you did what you did. Okay, next question. edTPA page count. I have seen that certain tasks ask that we stay under a predetermined page count. Suggestions for how to do so, or what should be cut out in our responses so that I do stay under the page count. First of all, this is a question that's come up every quarter that I've taught this course, and so it's not uncommon. First, you have to remember that the template doesn't count towards your page total, so that cuts things right off the bat. And you want to be conservative with your words and use the words that make the most impact. So what I mean by that is pick and choose what is completely relevant to what you're trying to accomplish, the point you're trying to get across. And I think that you'll find that you'll be under the page count if you are conservative with your words. Okay, the next question. When using resources and research to support instructional strategies, can we repeat them throughout task 1, 2, and 3? The same research will support the same instructional strategy used again within multiple lessons. I hope that was clear. It is clear. I think that what you're asking is, if you do research on, again, prior knowledge from Jones 2014, that applies throughout task 1, 2, and 3, and yes, you can use that support multiple times. So the short answer to that question is yes. Use that research multiple times whenever it actually fits what you're asked, to provide evidence for. Okay. The next question. Each task focuses on intentional support for language and literacy development. I am assuming this is true across content areas, meaning the lesson does not have to focus on literacy, but it can be integrated across content areas. I'm in a classroom that team teaches, and specifically instructs social studies, science, and math. However, I have integrated instruction across content areas before, but I'm not sure the host classroom about the host classroom at this point. Yes, literacy can be integrated in science, social studies, math, all the content areas. It's an interdisciplinary, the word is interdisciplinary. That's what they're looking for. And you want to, the language and literacy component is big in the edTPA. How are you developing language and literacy for your students? It could be something as simple as a book, reading a book before a math lesson. That's incorporating literacy. It could be that they're reading in science, they're reading in social studies, which makes perfect sense, right? Because something that, but you don't want them to just read something and then answer 3 questions and then that's their lesson. I mean, I'm all for keeping it simple, but you want to have a lesson plan that develops their language and literacy, and it's integrated. So you're bouncing back and forth from literacy to science. They read about the water cycle if that's what you're teaching them. So you want to that intentional support for language and literacy means, like, if they do say they do read an article about the water cycle or something like that before they do an actual experiment or lesson, that would be appropriate for what they're looking for. Okay, I hope I answered that clearly. Regarding video, the instruction state that we cannot edit the videos, but it also states they can only be 15 minutes in length. Certainly, as we are recording authentic instruction and student interaction, the video may run longer than 15 minutes. Therefore, are we able to stop the video at 15 minutes after we have recorded? Okay, if I understand this correctly, let me just kind of go into this. You're only allowed a continuous unedited video. And there may be points where there's not much going on, but they don't want it chopped up for various reasons that we don't have to worry about. It's just the rule. Okay? So they want to get that authentic instruction and student interactions. So your video could run longer than 15 minutes, but all you submit is that length of video. So you're going to pick the best 15 minutes, and you're going to have an opportunity to discuss that best 15 minutes with your clinical practice supervisor. And you're going to practice submitting videos, and I'll help you kind of establish some criteria for what you do for the edTPA, the video that you choose for the edTPA. So you'll have some feedback on that, and you'll be able to have a better idea of what you include. But it kind of, to get to your point, it does have to be unedited, and it has to be a certain length. So you'll have to cut out and pick your best. So that's why Ms. McDevitt and I keep telling you guys to videotape as early and as much as possible so you can use your best stuff. Okay, you stated that that we are practicing at this point, but when does the practice end? I want to maximize the feedback you provide now. Okay, good question. I believe after week 4, you post a sample video, which is meant to simulate what you're going to do for your videos for the actual edTPA assessment, and you're going to receive that feedback from me. And at that point, you'll have feedback on your lesson plans. I'm going to give you, it's kind of a fast turnaround that week, because as soon as I get them, I have to grade them quickly. So, because it's the most important thing is to get you feedback, obviously good feedback, but to get that feedback quickly. So for the first 4 weeks or so, and it depends on your schedule, because remember, I'm flexible. We have to remain flexible with our cooperating teachers, clinical practice supervisors, and all that. But for about the first 4 weeks, we're practicing. So everything right now is what I mean by practice. Okay, and the next question here, or statement. The instructions also state that the lesson plan can only be 4 pages in length. However, the template is extremely long. How are we supposed to use for, and I kind of addressed this earlier about what to cut for the lesson plans. Again, the template doesn't count towards the page total, so that, I think we'll deal with that when we get to that bridge, if you know what I mean. But you should have, be conservative with your words, but at the same time, use your words that have the most impact on what you're trying to accomplish. So make sure that you're